Welcome everybody to the special edition of Pro Fantasy Rodeo edition of Ballers and Briefs. I have with me Ashley Baller from Teton Ridge Gaming via Pro Fantasy Rodeo. We really appreciate you hopping on the show with us today. And I can't contain myself. I've been wanting to talk. I know I've been blowing you up, talking about it on socials, and I am just so ready to help everybody get on the same page and get Pro Fantasy Rodeo out there amongst the people that do regular fantasy sports that watch us. So with that being said, Ashley, you can just give a little bit of an intro about yourself, and then we can go from there.
Heck yeah. Well, I am super pumped to be here as well because if you're a fan of fantasy sports, then you should definitely be a fan of Fantasy Rodeo because it is a ball. So, yeah, my name's Ashley Baller, work at Teton Ridge Gaming, and Pro Fantasy Rodeo is what we do. So, I graduated from Colorado State University Equine Science realm, found myself as Miss Rodeo Colorado 2022, and then I started with Teton Ridge, and Pro Fantasy Rodeo was created by my boss, Casey Jones, and his wife, Gail Jones, about 20 years ago. They just celebrated their 20th year anniversary at the end of 2023. And it started with the National Finals Rodeo, which is like the Super Bowl of rodeo for us. And that's every December, where the top cowboys and cowgirls in every event go head to head to see who will be world champions. And then it was acquired by Teton Ridge in 2022. And now our goal is to make it more of a year of the round type year, all around the year-round experience. There we go. That's what I'm looking for, because it really should be. So we are talking about American Fantasy Rodeo right now, or American Rodeo Fantasy. And that's a pretty exciting event. So that's in a week, and there's lots to talk about it. So what do you want to know? Tell me, do you want to know more about Pro Fantasy Rodeo history? Maybe what is rodeo in general? How do you play?
Let's kind of start with what is Pro Fantasy Rodeo like, because I could tell you all day what fantasy football is, fantasy baseball is. Like, we get in how it's scored and different types of scoring. And I think that's probably like the first and foremost big question. What is Pro Fantasy Rodeo? Like, is this something that like everybody's can play? Like, what is it? Can you describe it just a little bit for the people that might not really know exactly what it is?
Of course, I'd love to. So I'll even take it back a few steps farther. What is rodeo? And rodeo to us is the toughest sport on dirt. There's 8 different events. Men and women compete, and there's timed events and rough stock events. So let's start off with timed events, and we've got team roping. So that is the only team event in rodeo. That means you've got a header and a healer, and what happens is they have to rope the steer as fast as they can. So your header runs out, ropes the steer on the horns, the healer ropes the heels, and as soon as their horses face each other, the clock stops. So that's team roping. We've got tie down roping, where a cowboy backs into a chute. As soon as he nods his head, they let go of a calf. He runs, catches it, ropes 3 of the legs, and then it has to stay tied for 6 seconds. Fastest cowboy wins. Barrel racing, that is a cowgirls event. So you've got 3 barrels set up, kind of like, we call it a cloverleaf pattern, and they have to run around the barrels as fast as they can. Again, whoever stops the clock in the shortest amount of time, that's your winner. And breakaway roping, another cowgirls event. So there's a cowgirl, she backs into a box. That's what we call it. It's a box, and then you've got a chute that is a calf is in. And as soon as she nods her head, the calf runs out. She ropes it around the neck, and that horn will actually, or the rope will break loose. And at the time it breaks loose, the clock stops. And then you have steer wrestling, which, what's interesting about this sport is I was actually seeing recently, I think DraftKings posted it. It's the top 15 toughest sport right now. And so it's crazy. You have a cowboy, and he's pretty much riding a racehorse, and he has to come off going full speed and grab the steer around the horns, twist them over, and as soon as all 4 feet are facing one way, the clock stops. And fun fact here is actually Casey Jones, who's my boss, who started Pro Fantasy Rodeo. He's a 9-time qualifier at the National Finals Rodeo. So that means he is among the top of the top competing there with world champions. So fun fact there. And then rough stock events. Those are all bucking animals. So you've got bucking horses and bucking bulls, and those are based off scores from judges. So not times, it's not the fastest time. It's they have to stay riding for 8 seconds at a time, and then the points go up to 100. So if they win 95, then they win. If they're closer in the 70-point range, then they might have better luck next time. But kind of a little spiel in what is rodeo in general. So like I said, 8 events. You've got your rough stock, you've got your timed event. Some are women, some are men. Now, Pro Fantasy Rodeo, I would say it's most comparable to daily fantasy sports. So you, instead of kind of watching your team all year and making different selections based off of things that occur along a timeline, it's just you build a team. So you build a team based off of those 8 events in rodeo. You pick one cowboy or one cowgirl in each event, and then you follow them throughout the entire performance and or 10 rounds of performance if we're talking about the National Finals Rodeo. So we go to profantasyrodeo.com, which is it's a website. It can also be like a home web app. We're working on making an application right now, but profantasyrodeo.com is where you get entered for American Fantasy Rodeo right now. And it's a lot of fun. It's not a lot of money to play, but you can win right now over $185,000 in cash and prizes, truck and trailer, buckles, everything. So I know I've kind of been chatting about a lot of different things in here. What can I kind of narrow in on from there? We talked about the rodeo events. What is Pro Fantasy Rodeo? It's a way to get some skin in the game, build your team based off of who you think is going to cash in the most for said performance or said rounds, and kind of test your luck from there.
So, I've been around rodeo pretty much all of my life, here or there. My dad was a bull rider. My uncles were steer wrestlers. My parents always told me I was too tall to be a bull rider. I'm like 5'11", so like I'm too tall to be a bull rider. I could be a bronc rider, and I was hefty enough to be a steer wrestler, but I played football instead, and baseball instead. So I'm familiar with how scoring works in the rough stock type and in some of the timed events. So when for someone that might not know exactly how the scoring goes, is the scoring in those events, is it simultaneous kind of with the way that the Pro Fantasy Rodeo is? So if it's a 87-point ride on a bull, is the points translate the same on Pro Fantasy Rodeo? Is if a healer or if a calf roper ropes a calf in 5 seconds, how does that translate into points? So that I think the scoring is something that people would have questions for, because in football you score a touchdown, 6 points, you get 6 points as a quarterback, or you're a wide receiver, you make a catch, you get 1 point for a catch. So how is the scoring in Pro Fantasy Rodeo determined?
Yeah. So the good thing is that it's actually, to me at least, it's a lot more simple than football, basketball, baseball, any other type of category of fantasy sports. So it's based off of the dollar amount. So what's interesting about rodeo is that it's a pay to play game. So and it's all based off of your ranking in the world standings, which is based off of the amount of money you've won throughout the year. So it's all based off of dollars. So it's a dollar for dollar game. And for example, in our timed events, the fastest cowboy wins, and it's all based off of your placings are based off of time. So in your steer wrestling, you'd be looking for something around 3 to 5 seconds where they're laying that steer down, and that'd be something ideal dependent on the size of the arena. But if we're talking about scoring in the rough stock events, then it's based off of a 100-point scale. And what's unique about rodeo is that there's a human and then a human athlete and then a livestock athlete. So in the bull riding, you've of course got a bucking bull. 50 points total can go to the bull, 50 points total can go to the rider, and the judges are the one who is scoring that on the field, in the arena, and it kind of depends on the trip they get. So a lot of people who are familiar with rodeo will base their picks off of even more of the animal than the cowboy. But you don't have to know about the animals. You don't have to know about the stock. You can really base it off of how the Cowboys are doing most recently in their year. So it runs from October 1st or October to September, September to October, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it's all based off of that dollar amount that they win, based off of, in the rough stock events, how high their score is. So it'll, if you get a 90-point cowboy, then he'll go above the 88-point cowboy, and then your lowest scoring cowboy will be at the bottom. And the guy who places at the top, he'll get the most money. And same with the timed event. So if you're the fastest cowboy, then you'll get the most money, and you'll move higher up in the rankings throughout the year based on how high you place and how much you win. So it's all based off of that dollar amount, and in the rough stock, what they're getting scored in the arena, and the timed events, how fast they're stopping the clock.
Okay. Well, kind of like trying to piggybacking off of what you just said there, like when it comes to people getting involved to like knowing stock, right? Like, so what's called a draw, when somebody draws a certain bull or a certain horse, is that made available beforehand, before they get a ride, so that like you could go and look and say, okay, well, Sage Kimsey has ridden this bull this many times throughout the year. He's been, or he rode him last year. Is that available? Is that something that people can go and do a little bit of research on their own? And is that bull, are the names of the draws given out beforehand before you pick your team? So like, would I know that going into next weekend, who they draw as, or is it draw like that day? So
yeah, we know. So we'll be posting those soon. And for traditional rodeos, they happen either the night before the performance or 48 hours before. Don't quote me on that, but definitely the day before it's set. And so the Cowboys can know, like, okay, what stock am I getting? And then they can talk to the stock contractors and get advice on how to measure their bronc rein, for example, in the saddle bronc riding, to ride the horse the best, or anything of that nature. How does this horse buck? What's the style of that? Things like that. But yes, we do make the draw available so that people can better inform themselves, so they can see, okay, this has been a Hall of Fame bucking horse, or, this one has been bucking horse of the year for the past 3 years. And every time he's matched up with this cowboy, you're guaranteed to have a 85 plus point ride. So that is made available because people, they like to see that, because it really can make a difference. I mean, if you've got a horse that just bucks beautifully in the saddle bronc, and every time, it just consistently has successful trips, then those Cowboys are going to want that horse that can really help show off their ability and their skill. And so a great resource is actually prorodeo.com. And that's the PRCA's website. So PRCA is the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. That's the governing body of professional rodeo. There we go. Check that out. I dig it. That's a sweet
vintage, old vintage right there. NFR Las Vegas, like 1997, I think.
You could probably sell that thing for lots of money. That thing is gorgeous. I
found it in a box today, cleaning out the garage.
You better be careful. I'm going to find you and come steal that thing. No. But yeah, PRCA, and, they've on their website, you can pretty much find anything you want about, past bucking stock of the year, or even the current world standings, and the different, times, scores, what Cowboys and Cowboys have gotten at recent events.
Okay. Cool. So I guess that kind of can just jump us into, how do we get involved? What is, I know we have to go to profantasyrodeo.com. to get involved. Is it? Can you want to just kind of go through it? Maybe like present it. We can present it on, put it up here, and then kind of just show how to pick a team. You think it sounds good? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, I am going to share my screen here and make sure I'm sharing the right one. Okay, 1 second. All right. Can you see it?
Yeah, let me add it up there.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. All right, great. So this is profantasyrodeo.com. The homepage looks a little bit different here. I'll open it up so we get the full experience. And yeah, so this is the grand prize rig that people can win.
It's pretty right there.
Yeah, that's kind of part of Pro Fantasy Rodeo's claim to fame are the rigs that you can win. So this is a Ram 3500, and it's got a Bloomer trainer trailer on it, which is a fave for anybody in the Western world. So that's the top prize. But if you're wanting to play, you'd head to, of course, profantasyrodeo.com, and then you'd go to build your team. You'd put in your phone numbers. So, all right, everybody's going to see my phone number if they want to hit me up. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. And then you'll put in just a one-time password. So super simple, super easy. And, like I said, Pro Fantasy Rodeo is in this phase where we're really starting to kind of morph into more of a around-the-clock type of thing. And that's what's fun about this website is that, a lot of our older type cowboys kind of struggle getting into their iPhones, downloading the apps. They forget the passwords. And it's just slick to just be able to hop on a website and engage. So a little bit different than the apps, but definitely pretty simple. And we're going to look at the American Rodeo today. So we'll just go ahead and call it Team Baller. So you'll pick a name for your team, and it's easy. So we're going to start off with select your 8-person top riders team. So something I kind of want to touch on is the difference between American Rodeo Fantasy versus National Finals Rodeo Fantasy. So National Finals Rodeo Fantasy, you pick one team for 10 nights of rodeo, and you'll be picking your Cowboys based off of how much you think they're going to win across those 10 days. Whereas American Rodeo, we have American contestants and we have American Rodeo contenders. And so what's unique about that is that you don't have to be a professional rodeo athlete to become a contender. And so they go through a qualifying tournament, and the top 5 by the end of it make it across the line to the American Rodeo. So it's kind of like David and Goliath or Joe's versus pros, and your American Rodeo contestants, who are the top 5 in the world standings at the end of 2023, they automatically qualify. And so that's what we're calling our top riders team. These are your world champions. They're used to the bright lights. They've been there, done that. They are your professionals. And so we've got a salary cap here of $200,000. So if we're just going here and picking our team, I'll just stay middle of the pack here, so we stay below our fantasy or our salary cap. But you'd pick a bareback rider, so that's rough stock, and you'd pick a steer wrestler, that's timed event. Team roping, we've got pairs. So like I said, you pick a header and a healer. And then saddle bronc riding, that's another rough stock event. And these are ranked in order of money earned at the end of 2023 year. So the most expensive cowboy or cowgirl means that they ended up as the world champion. So breakaway here, if I were to pick Shelby for $50,000, that means that she's the most expensive, and her salary cap is based on her expense based off of the amount of money won at the end of the year. So it's a money game. Okay. Yeah. So tie down, something I'd like to mention about Shad Mayfield. He is amazing. I mean, he's like 50,000 ahead of the field right now in the tie down, which is pretty astonishing, and almost broke the world record the reigning record at the National Finals Rodeo twice in 2023. So he's one to watch out for.
When I was making a post last night, I saw Shad had his own sticker. So I slapped him up there on the reel, or the story. So I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, he's one that I've heard about a lot. I mean, I grew up in the era of the Fred Whitfields, so that he was my guy back in the day. So and I've heard lots of comparisons that Shad's better than Fred. So like that says a lot to me. So
Totally. They don't call him Shad Money Mayfield for nothing.
yeah, right.
He's getting after it and he's hungry. Definitely admirable. So yeah, let's see here. Let me make sure I've got, oh shoot, I already blew my salary cap. All right, 1 second. Let me try and this is just a pretend team just to make sure that we all know what we're looking at here. All right, 20,000 left to spend, but we're going to go with it. So this is the team that you're going to want to, if you were making a team right now, where you're going to want to place your emphasis. And the reason is because these are the contenders. So these are your Joes and the Joes versus pros conversation. So your contenders are actually eligible to win $1 million. So the only time they would split that million is if another contender in a different event, for example, if there was a winner in the tie down roping and in the bull riding, if two contenders won those events, they would split the $1 million. But if only one contender won throughout all 8 events, then they would get that $1 million to themselves. And why that's important is because when you're building your team here, you got $120,000 salary, but your first pick, you get 100% of their earnings. So if you pick a contender who wins the $1 million, then you get 100% of those earnings, which skyrockets you in the fantasy standings. So
this is where if you're gonna guess, this is where you want to guess, right? Like this is where your person where you want to this is where you want to be on point with your guessing if you don't really know much, because this is the most important pick, I would say, right?
Exactly. And it's true. It's true. Your first pick here is like you want to be close to sure who you think are the contenders are. And a little bit of a side story here. What's fun about Pro Fantasy Rodeo, it's so simple here. I mean, we'll talk more about, we'll finish our team here and then we'll talk about the last step, but you can guess. I mean, there's the person who won our breakaway roping game for the finals last year. They picked their top person who they thought was going to win it all, and they guessed on the rest of it, and they won. So $10,000 in their pocket just by guessing. And it's true. You can do it. I mean, rodeo, there's so much chance involved. So even if you don't know a thing about rodeo and you're watching here for the first time, just heard that word, don't even know what a cowboy is, don't fear, because there's a chance you could win. So your first pick, like I'd said, be confident that you think that contender is going to win. And I will say somebody who I've got my eye on is Tilden Hooper in the bareback riding. He's actually a 2-time American rodeo champion, and he's hungry for that $1 million. So Tilden Hooper, he's one to watch out for. My second pick personally would be Will Loomis in the steer wrestling. He's incredibly talented, and I could see him shining bright under those lights at Globe Life Field in Arlington. So we're going to go a little bit random here on the rest of them. Logan Hay, though, I think he's going to do well. And where you can find more information on, like, who are these Cowboys? How are they doing? PRCA, the Instagram, Facebook, and ProRodeo.com, that website, incredibly informational. Same with the Cowboy Channel. So Cowboy Channel is kind of like our ESPN. And if I'm looking for just some quick stats, quick information, that's where I'm going to go to see who's hot and who's really killing it during the season.
I'm going to add those links into the description after the show so that people can have them. So
perfect. And one thing I forgot to mention is that you have 5 picks here, and the percentage of what you get decreases as you go down the line, but you're not limited to events. So if you wanted to, pick a couple barrel racers, couple bareback riders, and someone else, you can. It's not one event each. It's just who you have the best feeling about from a contestant standpoint, and then your estimated team winnings. So if you are confident in your team, you're going to want to make sure you are estimating over $1 million, because you're hoping that you pick a contender who wins the million, and hopefully a contender does. So last year, the winning team was about $1,054,000. So we'll just kind of throw in a random number here, and oh, that's a little bit high. But yeah, I think over $1 million is a good spot to go. And we actually have leagues too. So when you get to this point, that's what's fun about it, is because you can compete against your buddies, and leagues of 10. So you'll have 10 people on a league, and whoever's team wins the highest amount at the end of the rodeo wins the buckle. So not only are you able to get those bragging rights, but you can win a buckle by the end of it. And we've got these optional prize challenges. So you can pay $10, be a part of a smaller pool of players, and win a saddle if you want. We've got a high roller prize challenge right now, $1,000 to get entered into that one. But it's high risk, high rewards. So you're going to be among a definitely smaller group of people, but $20,000 is on the line, and infinity massage chair, and a signed guitar. So we have Post Malone, Luke. Oh man, I might have gotten the wrong one with the Luke. Anyway, we've got Post Malone coming at the American Rodeo, which is going to be a blast. I'm most excited for him. I know our other country singer, but now I'm totally forgetting it, so I don't want to say it wrong. But anyway, he's also pretty bomb. So that's how you make a team. It's easy. 3 simple steps. You pick your first team is 8 riders, 1 in each event. Second team is 5 contenders from any event. And then you estimate your team winnings and join a league and or a prize challenge, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems, I mean, I guess maybe on the front end, like if you don't really know much about it, it would could look, I guess, a little daunting in a certain way, but I feel like that it's a point that I think if with the resources that you told us to look at and those kinds of things, that it could be very lucrative. Is there what was it cost? What is the cost to get into the to it? What was the buy-in amount?
Sure. And I'll pull up a couple other resources just for people who it might be their first time checking it out. And something that I like to check out is this our downloadable entry form, and it's $59.95 for a team, over $180,000 in cash and prizes. And this entry form, for visual folks, it's awesome because it breaks it down so you can see that, all right, here's your list of American contestants to pick from. You can add them here for each event. And then, your 5 contenders. So you can see it all right in front of you. It lists the amounts available, and then you've got your tiebreaker team winnings estimation. So we try and make it as simple as possible for anybody who hasn't been involved with rodeo before. So you can kind of cruise around our website here and, check out the entry form, check out the payout. So this is something that I think is fun. Of course, first place gets that Ram 3500, but if you play second, you'll get 6,000. So $59.95 to enter for that it's pretty good return. And that's something that makes us excited.
Oh yeah. I mean, we see big money tournaments all the time in daily fantasy. I mean, it's around 20 or 20, sometimes depending on the week and how much they really have going on, between 15 and 25 for the $1 million tournaments. And then for the ones that are like high end payouts, other than the $1 million tournaments, they can range anywhere from 20 to $1,000. So yeah, it's very on the same page as what we see in DraftKings and the NFL and stuff like that. So I do know I was looking, these are just some questions I when I was perusing, trying to like build a team along with you, and maybe some stuff that people would run into and they might not really know. I noticed on the 8-person top riders section that there was a section that, hey Phil, what's up, man?
Yo,
This is Ashley from
hello,
Teton Ridge Pro Fantasy Rodeo. we're just going over kind of like how to get involved. We just kind of did a little tour on how to put a team together, and I was just going to kind of ask her a couple questions based on kind of what we just went over. So, yeah, so I did notice that like in some of the sections where like bull riding, for instance, there is someone that's considered scratch. So could you kind of give us a little bit of like what the scratched mean? Are they ineligible? Are they hurt? Like what exactly does that? Because for us, where it says injured or disabled or whatever, right? So
Yeah, totally. And great call out there. That is a great point. So you're right. In our top riders team, which would be considered the contestants who qualified by being the top 5 at the end of the 2023 season, we do have a scratch from Sage Kimsey, who is, I mean, just an amazing bull rider. But he did scratch due to an injury. So for your top riders, instead of 5, you'd only have 4 bull riders to choose from here. But still have 5 to choose from for your contenders. So great point there, and noting that Sage Kimsey is out in the bull riding.
Okay. And some other things I was thinking about, and this is, and I know that you went over this, but I was just trying to think like, so just because they cost less doesn't mean it's not talent level, right? It's just because that's how much money it's based off, like you said, based off the money that they made last year, not on amount of skill or how often they've won this year. This is based off totally of last year, right?
Yep, exactly. So that is what this is based off here. So Zeke Thurston, you'll see in the steer or in the saddle bronc, he was the world champion. So he's the most expensive. And then as you go down here, they digress into the lowered placing cowboys or cowgirls, and that's kind of how those salaries follow. And for the contenders, these are ordered based off of how they place at our contender finals. So this was a qualifying tournament based off of the East, Central, and Western regions. And we had a contender tournament at the very end. So the top 5 in each event at the end of the contender tournament made it through. So you'll see in barrel racing, Brandon Collins ended at the top there. And so he's worth $50,000. But I'll tell you what, you look at the breakaway, and what's interesting about the breakaway is that many of the contestants here were in the top 10, top 15 at the end of the year last year. So just because they're contenders, considered the Joes versus the pros, doesn't mean that they're not actually pros. And a lot of these individuals, for example, like I'd mentioned, Tilden Hooper, just because he is a little bit more cost effective with that 10,000, that is someone who I would have a lot of confidence in kind of anchoring my team with. So even though he's cheaper, it's one that you could feel confident full sending it with. And one of the things that I'll show you here is if you go to prorodeo.com and you go to standings, you'll want to check out the world standings, and then you can kind of go through each event. So if you go to steer wrestling, for example, you'll see Will Loomis here. He's won 41,000 so far. And once you break into the profiles, you can see a little bit more of their stats, how they did at the last few top rodeos this year. But he is a contender in the steer wrestling, and he's only 20,000. So he's at the top of the world standings right now for 2024, but a really cost-effective pick in the steer wrestling. So he's someone who, again, I would put my money on.
Okay. I have a question. So like in golf and football, sometimes the stadium matters, the turf, the weather, the things like that. Are all of the rodeo fantasy sports done in like the same type of dirt or the same type of arena?
That's a great question. That's a great question, because I'm glad you said that, because I've been watching Rodeo Houston, and Rodeo Houston is played in NRG where the Texans play, Phil. So it's on the football field. And usually I know in barrel racing, they have the 3 barrels set up, and the barrels are usually really close to the wall. So the horses are looking for those walls when they make those turns. So I'll let Ashley answer, but I love that question, because that's just a question that actually came up when I was watching the Rodeo Houston the other night.
Yeah, no, that is a great question, and that's going to make the most difference in your timed events. So rough stock, just to catch you up here, Phil, our rough stock events are scored events. So those are cowboys that are riding either a bucking horse or a bucking bull for 8 seconds. At the end of their ride, the judge scores them. So it'll be a score between, it can be all the way up to 100. And that'll be pretty consistent because you've got your animal in a chute. It'll be a left or right delivery, which means that as soon as the cowboy nods their head, they'll open the gate to the left or right and the animal will start bucking. So that one's pretty consistent. Bucking style of the animals is something where you might want to pay more attention to that. But as far as arena and arena size variation, that's going to really impact the timed events in. For example, there's something called a score line, and this is getting a little bit more detailed into the sport, but I don't see why we might as well not get into it. And so your score line is going to vary based on the length of the arena. And so the longer the arena, the longer the score line will be. And that score line is so that the steer or the calf has a head start. So as soon as the cowboy or the cowgirl nods their head, that calf or a steer has they're connected to a barrier, and they'll be let out of the chute first. And as soon as they get to a point where that barrier is released, then the cowboy and the horse can then exit. And so that head start is based off of the length of the arena. Now, I will say there's not too much variation. I mean, when you're looking at Cheyenne Frontier Days, which is a massive outdoor rodeo in the summer, that score line's pretty long, and it's a lot different. So when you're looking at the American, and maybe you're trying to pay attention to your contenders, for example, I think that you could probably be safe in maybe if you wanted to take a look at their past few, the average of the past few rodeos that they've been at, and not worry too much on the size of the arena, because those seconds aren't going to vary incredibly. Now in the barrel racing, at the National Finals Rodeo, those times are stopping at around 13 seconds, but with a bigger pattern, aka a bigger arena, it might be a 16-second run. So barrel racing, you're going to see the most variation, but in steer wrestling, tie down, team roping, it's going to be consistent, and you can kind of stick to an average. So here at Globe Life Field for American Rodeo Fantasy, you can probably expect between I would say 14 and 15-second runs in the barrels, and other times relating to other events. So long response to your question, but yes, the arena size definitely has something to do with it. And us cowgirls, we like the right dirt in the barrel racing. So we actually reward awards in rodeo for best dirt, which is crazy. So like you could have the best dirt and you're going to get a prize for it, which is pretty awesome.
Nice. You said horses that buck and bulls that buck, are they in like do they separate horses into a different category from people that are on bulls? Like if I were to enter a fantasy contest, all of these people in this contest are bull riders, or all the people in this contest are horse riders, or is it the rider themselves, like Ty Erickson, for example, he rides horses or he rides bulls only? Is it like that?
Yeah. So we'll just kind of scroll right back up here to the contestants, and yeah, they are assigned by what event they qualified in. So for example here, Josh Frost, he's a bull rider, but he's also competed in the timed events, but he qualified in the bull riding, and so he'll be a bull rider for the sake of this contest. But it's all based off of what event they qualified in. So he can't compete at the American Rodeo, for example, in the tie down or the team roping, because he only qualified in the bull riding. But we have all around cowboys, which that means that they compete in 2 different events, maybe 2 rough stock events or a rough stock and a timed event.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's crazy seeing, like, I see Tough Cooper down there at 10,000 in the tie down, and that's, to me, that I feel like that's insane, because like I feel like that's a steal, because like for instance, Phil, Tough Cooper in kind of like football lingo is like putting like DeAndre Swift at 2,000 on a weekly slate. Like he's that
That's
one of those guys that we see go off every week, and he's like down here at like 10,000.
So
and
do
I'm
you
like,
think he'll be chalk because of that?
I will with this with. So where I don't want to confuse Ashley, but a term that is in fantasy sports, in daily fantasy sports, is called chalk, and then contrarian. But with the thoughts of Pro Fantasy Rodeo, where the differentiation is it's not, you're not going against the field as much because it's based on a dollar amount. So I don't think he would be chalk in this situation to answer the question, because
what do you mean it's based on a dollar amount?
So
like if me and you pick the same lineup, aren't we going to split the prize?
Yes, yeah, we are. I guess it is chalk. So in a way it is. I guess you think about it like that, but it's based on like what they score and what they win. So chalk means a lot of people are picking them, Ashley. So like for instance, like if for instance everybody knows who Patrick Mahomes is. He's like the face of NFL right now. So everybody wants Patrick Mahomes on their team every week. Everybody goes out and 90% of the field pick him. So he's considered chalk. And
you want to fade him. You want to get different.
Different. Yeah. That's our motto at Ballers and Briefs, get different. But so like where the way you explained it, looking at the average and the contenders, I feel like the contenders is a spot where maybe that's where we would get different, Phil, as opposed to the top half where the pros are, maybe because you want to look at more what they've done recently as opposed to what they might do. So
now when I make a lineup in this, am I picking a person out of each one of these categories and that makes my lineup? Or
let's talk through it. Let's get Phil caught up to speed. So Phil, we're looking at the entry form here and 3 easy steps. So your first event, you've got pick one rider in each event for your top riders team. And your top riders are considered your Cowboys or Cowgirls, who are the top 5 in the world standings at the end of the year. They automatically qualify. And you got to pick one in each event while staying under a $200,000 salary cap. And that's where you got to stick to the event. So you'll pick one saddle bronc rider, one team roper, one bull rider, while staying under that salary cap. And, when you're talking about someone like Tough Cooper, this is based off of 2023 standings, and Tough Cooper he's been hot. I mean, he has been really making some moves on the trail this year. So even though he's 10,000 right here, I mean, he might be closer to $40,000 pick. So he's really a great cowboy, and that's where you kind of want to analyze those.
Just like you said about Shad, also like he's making moves at 30,000. He's going up there. So
yeah, like how they do it in San Antonio, Fort Worth, and Houston are the major rodeos. Houston, Fort Worth, and San Antonio are over, but Houston's going on right now, and that's where if you look at those standings and those results, and a lot of these Cowboys or Cowgirls are in there, you can kind of see how their most recent performance is. And then step number 2, pick 5 contenders. So Phil, this is where it's different. You get your contenders. These people are not eligible for $1 million, but these people are. And so your first pick, you get 100% of their earnings. So if Jordan Joe wins the breakaway, and she gets $1 million, then you get 100% of her of her earnings. But you don't have to stick to the category. So you can pick any cowboy or cowgirl from any events. It's just who you think is most eligible to win the $1 million.
Do girls compete against guys, or are they separated?
Separate events. So breakaway and barrel racing are women's events, and the rest are men's.
Okay, makes sense.
So the score total is based on money that they win. Yes,
exactly. Yep. So it's all based off of So
your first pick, you want, or you're gonna need the person who won to win this fantasy lineup.
Exactly. Yep. And something let's see if I was going to show y'all the winning
team.
It's
kind of like picking the MVP for us on.
Yes.
You got to nail the MVP or you're not going to win.
Because that in that specific case, you get 100% of their money. So you want the winner to be there.
Right. And this is an example of the winning team from last year. So Jackie Crawford, she's a breakaway roper, and she split the million with a tie down roper named Ty Harris. And so you see that he picked one of the winning contenders who won that 600,000, and that's what kind of helped to set him apart. And you can see that the contender team earned more than the top riders team. And so yeah, you want to make sure that whoever you're picking for your contender, you're most confident in them. And I kind of showed you prorodeo.com. You can cruise through the standings here, but another great resource would be the American Rodeo.
Where do I enter these lineups at? This is on DraftKings, or is this on a different website?
It's on profantasyrodeo.com.
Yeah, profantasyrodeo.com is the one. And if you go to americanrodeo.com, and we're going to have a link here somewhere else too, but you can go to results and standings, and I'll just kind of show you so y'all have a visual idea. But we'll go to barrel racing here, and this is your results. I don't know, is it showing?
No, we can only see the top riders team section. That's the one that we're looking at right now.
Okay, I will fix it so we can see everything. Okay, 1 second. All right, I think you can see it, right? Oh shoot, I picked the wrong one.
I think you're that one.
Yes, so you'd press result, and I bet it's going to open up to another screen. Oh my gosh, this is not working like I wanted it to. But if you press those results, you'll be able to see how the contenders ended up at the end of the tournament. So that's where you can kind of get a better idea of the scores or the times that you should expect to see. So there we go. I think I've just got it pulled up here, and gotta love technology. But there we go. Okay. So you can see, I think I mentioned a few minutes ago, Brandon Collins, and he got a 15.3 second run in the barrel racing. And at this results page, you can go through all the events and see how those contenders did at the contender finals. And that's a good kind of base for their performance. So these are the top 5 by the end of it, but you can expect the times to be around 15 seconds for what you'll see at Globe Life Field.
Nice. Got where to do the research at too.
Yeah. But I was telling Cody that, we've had some successful winners who end up just guessing it. They might only know 1 or 2 events. Maybe they read a news story and had a good feeling about one cowboy and guessed on the rest, and they walk away with some major money in their pocket. So it's easy in the grand scheme of things. You got only 3 steps here, but if you want to learn more, you can check out the websites. You can go to profantasyrodeo.com or find us on Instagram or Facebook. We'll kind of keep you up to date there. And then same with the socials for PRCA and Cowboy Channel. So Phil, Cowboy Channel is like ESPN for us. That's where we catch all of our up-to-date rodeo things. So what else? What else can I help share with y'all?
How many entries can I put in this? Is it 1 entry per person, or am I capped at 150 entries?
You can enter as many times as you want. So it's only $59.95 for a team for American Rodeo Fantasy. And yeah, you can, as many times as you want, you can get in there and make it happen.
And what's the first place prize?
The first place prize is a Ram 3500 with the Bloomer trainer trailer. So it's a truck and trailer.
Nice. Then, 3,500. It's a $100,000 truck.
Oh yeah. And the trailer itself is what's nice. I mean, the truck's nice, but the trailer itself, I mean, that's a pretty trailer too. So,
yeah,
I've seen like, I mean, Buckles and she was showing earlier. They signed guitar, Post Malone signed guitar.
I'm about to sneak win it, and I don't know a thing about the Cowboys and Cowgirls.
Chair.
Yeah, this is once it shows, it'll probably take a couple seconds. But I've got a picture up here of the winning truck and trailer.
Oh, that trailer is fire.
Yeah, it's pretty gorgeous, and he opted into a prize challenge for that 4-wheeler there and won it too. So I was telling Cody that we've got a $1,000 opt-in prize challenge. It's called our High Roller Prize Challenge, but there's only a few people who are going to feel gutsy enough to opt into that
that's
one.
Some three-man $1,000 tournaments, Phil.
You can win 20,000. So hey, if I could play, I would do it.
Yeah, that's those three-man $1,000 tournaments that we know about. But yeah, so Ashley, I know this is American Rodeo. I do know that you guys got the quarter horse or performance horse event going on also right now, and these all need to be locked in. We need to have all this stuff locked in by next Saturday, the 8th.
Yeah. So American Rodeo Fantasy entries close on the 9th. So exactly a week away. And like I said, we'll be getting that draw posted soon. Phil, the draw is going to be important when looking at your rough stock events to see what cowboy is matched up with which bucking horse or bucking bull. And that could kind of determine how well they're able to perform. So we'll get that there up on the website soon. But it seems like what a lot of our players end up doing is kind of waiting until the last minute to make sure there's no injuries or anything like that. But now is the time to, hop online and kind of check out and feel your favorites. So maybe you're going to base your team off of the American Rodeo champions last year, maybe the 2023 world champions, or you want to kind of dive into more of those times and scores that you saw at the contender finals. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of look at it. But our other fantasy game right now is American Performance Horsemen, and that's a completely different event, but only $29.95 to play. And we pay out $20,000 for the first place spot there. 15 spots after that, or 14 spots after that, 15 spots total. And you actually only have to pick 3 people for your first team. So different set of events completely, but less people to pick and a little bit cheaper. But I love them both, but definitely biased to rodeo.
Nice.
Perfect.
I mean, I'm going to enter. I'm having a gambling problem. I'm going to enter.
You'll definitely see teams pop up, a team name up there popped up there, Ballers and Briefs. So you'll definitely see that for sure on there. And any other games that are on the horizon that we need to be looking forward to? I know obviously NFR in December, but anything between now and then when we could revisit it again in December, but anything after the American that you guys got in the works?
Yeah, totally. So we have a summer game, and that was dubbed Christmas and July in 2023, and that's a little bit different. So it's actually it was a 4-week game. So you pick your team at the beginning of the month and follow that team for the 4 weeks, and every week, dependent on how your team does, you'll get a certain piece of the payout or prizes or whatever that might be. And so that's a fun summer game because of the fact that hundreds and hundreds of rodeos happen in July, and that's the major race. That's when guys are really trying to get as much money in their pockets to climb the ranks and hopefully secure their spot for the National Finals Rodeo, which is like the Super Bowl of rodeo. So it takes the top 15 cowboys and cowgirls in each event, and that's our big game. We actually had $1 million available last year if you picked all of the average winners, which was pretty exciting. But our Christmas in July game is definitely fun. We'll open entries for that in June. And, year round, we've actually got a whole gamut of other games. So we play over under at different rodeos as well. So it's pretty, and that one's actually free to play. So for example, in the bull riding, if there's, 10 cowboys, we'll set values based on how much they might score. And then you'll go in there and pick over, under, set a wager on how confident you are, and be eligible for some prizes there. So we do offer games, year-round fantasy games. We've got American Fantasy right now, Christmas in July, NFR, and other ones that might be popping up throughout the year. So definitely find us on social media, Pro Fantasy Rodeo, Instagram, Facebook. keep up with our website. And if you're interested, join us at the American Rodeo next week at Globe Life in Arlington. It's going to be a ton of fun, and it'll be streamed on Fox, so FS1. If you want to check out your teams, I believe it'll be, we call them like a long round and a short round. So your long round is going to be that round where the Cowboys are trying to get into the short round. That's like the finals. That's where you're going to find out who actually wins at the end of the day. So that long round will be streamed next Saturday on FS1, and we're pretty excited about it. So you're going to have to check it out.
That's in Texas? This is in Texas?
Yeah.
Arlington, Texas. If anybody is around Texas or feeling a little bit crazy, maybe they want to hop in the car and explore. But no, Pro Fantasy Rodeo is a ton of fun, and there's really no better time.
I won the 2 promo tickets last year.
It's true. Yeah, you're
won the 2 promo tickets. So yeah,
I'm in Florida, unfortunately. Does the rodeo travel to places, or is it always in Arlington, Texas?
So American Rodeo is in Arlington this year for who knows where it'll be next year, probably the same place. But there's rodeos around the nation, I mean, year round. So for example, when I was Miss Rodeo Colorado, I was in Kissimmee for an awesome rodeo there. So Florida's got more, a lot of different states have a lot more rodeos than you might think. So if you got to find one near you, Phil, I'll help you get hooked up. I'll find you one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kissimmy's not far. That's not far from Phil. So
yeah,
that's not far. About right down there south of Disney. So I'm there quite often too. So, but
heck yeah,
Disney dad.
Yeah. So, but Ashley, we couldn't be more than thankful for you to come on here. And I know we said we were going to talk about 30, 45 minutes, but we are over here almost an hour, and I appreciate. Phil, I know Phil appreciates you coming on and just giving us and touting us to the heavens on Facebook and on Twitter, and we know we've connected that way, and we really appreciate you. I mean, you just don't know. So
you got a new person that's gonna hop in there and spend some money now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. Sorry, I accidentally knocked something on my desk. I was like, oh, it's getting a little dark. Maybe I should turn my light on. But
just so everybody knows that Dad's got one.
Oh heck yeah! It's got a good shape too.
Yeah. That one's an old one, but yep, I got one.
Yeah.
So.
Cody's dad's a cowboy, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's legit.
Yes. I grew up, like I said, I told her I grew up in the bull riding and the chuck wagon races. That's the kind of stuff that I grew up in. So
yeah,
everybody wanted me to be a jockey because I'm small, but
never too late though.
Yeah, might be too late now. There's some weight on. No longer that small.
But again, we really appreciate it, and thanks, and thanks to everybody for watching, and ProFantasyRodeo.com, ProRodeo.com, the American Rodeo.com. Do all your research, and if you guys got questions, if you're thinking about putting in a lineup, you know that Ballers and Briefs on Facebook, come hit us up and say, hey, what do you think about this lineup? I mean, we don't know everything, but we know a little bit. So, and then Ashley's around, so yeah, just let us know. So
hit us up.
We'd love to help you rope that win.
Absolutely. We are more than happy to help. There are buckles on the line, money on the line, a truck and trailer. If you need help putting your team together, send us a message, send us an email. I will call you personally and help you get started, help you feel more comfortable getting through it. And it's just fun. I mean, rodeo it's a wild sport, and it's just fun to get some skin in the game with it. So thank you guys for having us. This is freaking awesome. It's been a total blast, and I see nothing better than to marry all of the different fantasy opportunities. So it's time that people get more involved with rodeo. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And everybody else, just hit us up on Facebook and join the group, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.